Here's your full emotional, inspiring story around 1500 words. She sold her only treasure for food, but the billionaire saw something that stunned him. The rain fell like quiet sorrow over the city that evening, cold, steady, and unforgiving. People hurried along the sidewalks, shielding themselves under umbrellas, too busy to notice the small figure sitting near the corner of an old street market. Her name was Alina. She couldn't have been more than 12. Her clothes were worn, her shoes slightly torn at the edges, and her thin frame trembled from hunger more than from the cold. In her small, shaking hands, she held a velvet pouch, faded but carefully preserved. Inside it was her last treasure. A delicate silver locket. It wasn't expensive, not something anyone wealthy would admire. But to Alina, it was everything. It had belonged to her mother. Her mother, who used to hum lullabies at night, who promised that no matter how hard life became, love would always find a way. But love hadn't paid the rent. Love hadn't bought food. And now, love wouldn't stop the hunger twisting inside her stomach. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. With slow, hesitant steps, Alina approached a small antique shop tucked between two brighter, more welcoming stores. The sign above the door flickered faintly. Cash for valuables. She swallowed hard. This was it, the last piece of her past. The last piece of her mother. Inside, the shop smelled of dust and old wood. The man behind the counter barely looked up. "What do you want?" he muttered. Alina stepped forward, placing the velvet pouch on the counter with trembling fingers. I want to sell this." The man sighed, clearly uninterested. But when he opened the pouch, his expression shifted, just slightly. He picked up the locket, turning it under the dim light. Alina held her breath. "It's not worth much," he said bluntly. "Cheap silver, old design." Her heart sank. "But, it's all I have," she whispered. The man shrugged. "I can give you $10. 10. It felt like a slap. But it was also food. Warm food, maybe even enough for a few days. Her fingers tightened at her sides. For a moment, she almost reached out to take the locket back. Almost. But then her stomach growled, a sharp, painful reminder. And slowly, she nodded. "Okay." The man tossed the money onto the counter without another word. Alina picked it up carefully, as if it might disappear. Then she turned and walked out into the rain. Without the locket, without the last piece of her mother. Across the street, inside a sleek black car, someone had been watching. He wasn't supposed to notice. Men like him didn't usually notice girls like her. His name was Victor Hale, a billionaire known for his sharp mind, colder demeanor, and a life built on power, precision, and control. He had just finished a meeting nearby when his driver paused at the red light. That's when he saw her. At first, it was nothing unusual, a poor child, another sad story in a city full of them. But something made him look again. Maybe it was the way she held the pouch, like it meant more than money. Maybe it was the hesitation in her movements. Or maybe, it was the look in her eyes when she walked out of that shop. Empty, not just hungry, but empty. Victor leaned forward slightly. "Wait," he said. The driver glanced back. "Sir, pull over." Alina had just reached a small food stall when she stopped. The smell of warm bread and soup wrapped around her like a cruel tease. She clutched the money tightly. Finally, food. She stepped forward. "Excuse me." The voice behind her was calm, deep, unfamiliar. She turned slowly. A tall man stood there, dressed in a perfectly tailored coat, untouched by the rain. His presence felt different. Like he didn't belong to this world of struggle. "Did you just sell something?" he asked. Alina froze. Her instinct screamed at her to run. But something in his tone wasn't threatening. Still cautious, she nodded. "Yes." "What did you sell?" She hesitated, then quietly said, "A locket." Victor studied her face. "Was it important to you?" That question hit harder than she expected. Her lips trembled slightly. "It was my mother's." For a moment, the world seemed to go silent. Victor blinked. That wasn't the answer he expected. "Then why sell it?" he asked. Her voice was barely audible. "Because I'm hungry." There are moments in life that break through even the strongest walls. For Victor Hale, this was one of them. He had built an empire. Closed billion-dollar deals without hesitation. Walked away from people, problems, emotions, like they were nothing. But this simple, honest answer from a starving child, it cracked something inside him. He looked at the money in her hand. Then back at her face. "You would sell the last thing your mother gave you, just to eat." Alina lowered her eyes. "I didn't want to. That was it. No drama, no self-pity, just truth." Victor exhaled slowly, then made a decision he didn't fully understand himself. Come with me. Her eyes widened. I don't. You wanted food, didn't you? She nodded cautiously. Then come. 10 minutes later, Alina found herself sitting inside a warm restaurant, one she had only ever seen from the outside. The table was set, the food, endless. Soup, bread, rice, vegetables, more than she had seen in weeks. Eat, Victor said simply. She didn't need to be told twice. At first, she ate quickly, almost desperately. But after a few moments, she slowed down, as if afraid it would disappear if she finished too fast. Victor watched silently. There was no pity in his eyes. Just curiosity. And something else. Something unfamiliar. When she finally looked up, she whispered, "Thank you." He nodded, then asked, "Where do you live?" She hesitated again. "I don't really have a place." Another pause. Another quiet crack in Victor's world. Later that night, Victor stood outside the antique shop. The same one. The owner looked surprised to see him. "Sir, can I help?" "The locket," Victor interrupted. "The one the girl sold." The man frowned. It's not worth much. I didn't ask for your opinion." A thick envelope landed on the counter. The man's eyes widened. "That's far more than I want it." No negotiation. No delay. The man quickly handed it over. Victor took the locket carefully. For a brief moment, he stared at it. Simple, worn, but clearly loved. "Interesting," he murmured. The next day, Alina woke up in a place she didn't recognize. A clean room, a soft bed, warm light spilling through the curtains. For a second, she thought it was a dream. Then the door opened. Victor stepped inside. "You're awake." She sat up quickly, confused. "Where am I?" "Somewhere safe," he replied. She looked at him, unsure. "Why are you helping me?" It was a fair question. Victor paused. Even he didn't have a clear answer. But then, he held something out to her. Her breath caught. "The locket. My locket," she whispered. Tears filled her eyes instantly. How? You shouldn't have had to sell it," he said quietly. Her hands shook as she took it. She held it close to her chest like she would never let it go again. I don't know how to thank you." Victor looked at her for a long moment. Then said something that surprised even himself. "You already did." She blinked. "How?" "You reminded me what matters." Weeks passed. Then months. Alina's life changed in ways she never imagined. She went to school, had proper meals, a safe place to sleep. But more importantly, she never lost who she was. She remained kind, grateful, strong, and that was what continued to amaze Victor the most. One evening, as they sat quietly, he asked her, "If you had the chance, would you go back and keep the locket instead of selling it?" She thought for a moment, then smiled softly. "No." He raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" "Because then, you wouldn't have seen me." Victor leaned back slightly, for once, speechless. Sometimes, the most valuable treasures aren't the ones we hold on to. They're the ones we're willing to sacrifice. Because in those moments, the world reveals something far greater. Not wealth, not power, but humanity. And for a man who had everything, a hungry girl with nothing, gave him the one thing he never knew he needed. A reason to care. The end. 1500 WAD.